Hey guys, welcome to another video. This one is 15.2. It's about the Great Depression. So what I want you to do is take a few minutes and think of as many words as you can for down, downer, bummer, downward spiral, any words you can think of that remind you of heading downward. So we want to describe the struggle that faced the world in the 1920s and 1930s, and we want to describe the connections between the end of World War I and the start of World War II. Some colleges actually teach them as one giant war. I like this picture. It gives you a sense of what post-war Europe looked like. Here you can see some buildings over here. This is what a road looked like. This area is clearly devastated. What you see here, guys, is a pretty good infographic about the Treaty of Versailles. You get the creation of the League of Nations. That's the thing Wilson loved. That's his baby. Notice Germany and Russia are excluded. Germany, look at all the land they lost. Germany surrenders all of its colonies overseas. So we got that. Military restrictions. It greatly shrinks the size of the German military. Germany's prohibited from importing or manufacturing weapons. And Germany's forbidden from buying submarines or to have an air force. The whole war is blamed on Germany, and Germany's forced to pay $33 billion in reparations. Reparations basically means paying back for the war. All right? So after the war, basically everyone in the world realizes, wow, that was bad. Everybody died. It wasn't good. Nobody liked it. So what they do is they come up with this Kellogg-Briand Pact. And it basically, every country in the world said, yeah, we don't like war anymore. Pinky swear we're never going to use it again. It was kind of high-minded. It was kind of a little ridiculous. The agreement was to be enforced by the League of Nations, but the League of Nations is weak because in an ironic twist, the United States never joins it. Even though it's Wilson's idea, the United States never joins it because of politics. Wilson's a Democrat. All the Republicans were in power were like, dude, this was your idea. You didn't let us come to power, and they voted. Notice, all right, 3 major European leaders are out after World War I. All right, you've got Tsar Nicholas II kicked out of Russia. You've got Kaiser Wilhelm out of Germany, and you've got the Emperor Franz German kicked out. So there's going to be all of these new leaders taking power in those nations. And what we're going to say here is that's a list of unstable new democracies. The fall of the kingdoms, these empires created new democracies in Europe. And these people have little experience with representative government. They don't have any experience voting. They don't have any experience running a country that's a democracy. Many of them are like, ooh, we want to be like America, let's have a democracy, but they don't know how to do it. Some form coalition governments. What that means is a bunch of little parties work together to say, hey, we have this many voters and they get power. And there's frequent changes. I think the German government is having votes every 2 years, so there's a new leader every 2 years, and there's all these kind of what we would call transition costs. All right? Recap. The American Depression on October 29, 1929, the stock market crashes. The stock market was going this way, then this way. Basically what happened is everybody tried selling all their stocks at once, and once everybody started selling, the price kept dropping. Businesses, investors, and people who didn't even invest, and banks all suffered. Really tragic turn of events. America's economy basically wiped out in one. So what did the Americans do? They vote for a guy named FDR, and we'll talk about him in class. He created this thing called the New Deal. Created jobs, spent more money on welfare, and regulated banking and the stock market. Many times our President Obama tries to compare himself to him because they both take over during the Depression, and they're both liberals. One of the things they did to help America was this holy smoot tariff. Tariff is a tax on imported goods. They bumped that way up so Americans were only buying their own goods. Problem is, if they're only buying their own goods, every other country in the world is going to suffer. I like this because this gives you a sense, boys and girls, of how the Depression affected farmers, people in the cities. This is what was called a bank run. Everybody was going to get their money out of the bank. Sadly, not everybody's money's there because the bank had loaned out the money, things like that. And here you can see this is just absolute rural poverty. So again, stock market crashes, unemployment goes up, Industrial production and wages decreased. Factory production was cut in half. Thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of businesses fail. 9 million people lose all their savings. By the height of the Depression, well over a quarter, most historians now believe it's 4 out of 10 Americans didn't have a job, didn't have a single way to make money. The U.S. bankers say, ooh, we have all these loans overseas, let's demand repayment. American investors withdrew their money from Europe and raised taxes. European nations responded by raising their tariff. And the world trade dropped by 65%. If people aren't trading with each other, nobody's making profit, people are losing money. And the American Depression turned global. Hardest hit, Germany and Austria. Great Britain, late 1920s, still paying back debt to the United States at a high interest rate. Again, cities, factories are the most affected. By 1930, they have almost 3 million people unemployed. So it affects Great Britain. The workers get upset in 1926, and all the workers went on strike. Hey, we need to be paid better, we need to be treated better. 1927 Parliament says, that's illegal. You can't do it. France is the hardest hit because so much fighting was on their land. Remember the Battle of the Somme turned a forest into a swamp? Well, some of those swamps were farmland, forests, villages, all part of France's land. After the war, their government is bankrupt. They have $0.0. And all the things that could destroy couldn't be rebuilt. So they were really, really struggling. Unemployment comes high. People start getting mad. There's civil unrest. And what happens is it becomes kind of, we'll talk about this in all these countries, a downward spiral, especially for France. Now, the worst of them all, Germany. Remember, they own $33 billion in reparations. They face severe inflation. What their government did say, fine, we owe that much money, we'll just print up a ton of money. The problem is the more money you print, the less value each of yours have. And this also connects to the beginning because we're looking again at a new democracy. The new democracy is called the Weimar Republic. It had serious weaknesses from the start. Germany never had been democratic, had many disagreeing parties. Most Germans blame the Weimar Republic for losing the war and accepting the treaty. So this new government almost had 2 strikes against it right away. Losing the war, unfair treaty, and then the third strike is going to be during the Great Depression. They're going to blame the government for that. The new government made huge mistakes in attempting to solve their financial crisis. The German dollar is called the mark. And what happened is the German government printed up so many of them became worthless. How worthless? So worthless you were better off burning it or using it as toilet paper than buying firewood or buying toilet paper. Because they did not increase taxes, the German government simply printed money to pay for wartime expenses. This drastically lowered the value of the people's money. And again, it got so little value that you were better off burning it than buying firewood. The problem is, if you print more money than the amount of gold you have, the money becomes less valuable. If the government keeps printing more money, businesses raise prices, government prints more money, businesses raise prices, and eventually their money became worthless. This is called hyperinflation. It grew out of control. Here you see kids playing with bundles. Those are bundles, like video game, movie bundles of marks. And they're better off using it as building toys than actually buying toys. That's how little value their money got. Again, my favorite story is people stopped buying toilet paper. It was cheaper to use the German mark to use it as toilet paper than to actually buy toilet paper. Canada gets hit hard. Again, about 30% of their unemployment gets hit, and their unemployment rate was around 12%. So this is truly a worldwide depression. So you go World War I, worldwide depression, World War II. Who else gets hit? Australia. It was not a good day, mate. They didn't have any shrimp to throw on the Barbie. South America, U.S., who had been investing heavily there, pulls all their money out. Chile, Bolivia, Peru all get hit by economic depression. And last but not least, the Netherlands. Not only was the economy suffering, but there were internal factors making it worse. Again, they suffered greatly. But what's interesting is around the world, some new leaders are going to offer alternatives. We already know this. Russia goes communist with Lenin. China goes communist with Mao Zedong, and Mussolini in Italy, Hitler in Germany are going to offer a new option called fascism. So ladies and gentlemen, that is our video for today. What do you really need to know? That after World War I, a severe worldwide economic depression hit. It hit for any number of reasons. It starts in America, it starts in Germany, it hits really hard. People desperate for help, desperate for support, turn to these new governments. All right, and who do they turn to? They turned to Hitler. They turned to Mussolini. In America, they turned to FDR, who was this uber liberal. So that is the end of the video. Again, World War I, depression, and it's going to lead to World War II.